What up, everybody? Welcome to Philly with John Marks on PHLY, and I'm already having microphone issues here. It's a lot of electrical tape and duct tape holding this up. We good? We're good. What's up, everybody? It's game day. Man, we have so much stuff to talk about. It's one of these things where we are like prisoners to our team sometimes when you're fans or when you do this job. Because coming in here today, and I'm totally gassed. I watched the game last night, had a ton of events over the weekend, but the fact that the Phils won 2 or 3 over the Mets and in the fashion that they did it makes coming in here, you can see the smile on my face. We'll talk about that coming up in a second. We have a game day, obviously, with the Eagles and the Falcons. We'll break it all down. Brandon Lee Gowton, the Bleeding Green Nation, is going to join us in about 25 minutes, 8:25, if you're watching live. So stay tuned for that. And we are live on YouTube. We are live on Roku TV. I think, Tyler Zuli, I had somebody that messaged me and said I was having problems getting to the Roku TV feed. And I went down, and in the guide, it says, like, unavailable or to be announced. So I didn't see if you couldn't watch it, but it doesn't have Philly with John Marks up on there yet.
Great.
I'll have to check into it.
So that's work for our back end staff. We got to figure something out there. That's less than ideal.
Well, we'll see. So, on YouTube, Roku, make sure you like and subscribe. Leave comments on what you're hearing on the show. Please do that at John Marks Media, JONMARKS Media. That's on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. That's my email at gmail.com. And if you're listening on the podcast, hello. Tyler posted every day the audio version right after 9 o'clock. So no matter how you're listening to us live or on demand, good morning. It's a game day. Philly with John Marks, presented by Bet Parks. Eagles line down to 5.5 points. Went a full point since we were here on Friday. That's interesting. A.J. Brown out for the game. We'll talk about that. Before we get to Tyler, kind of with an update and everything, we'll get rolling here. I got a lot of people blaming me for, at least on Friday after the game, for the Phillies loss. Now, they were behind 11-0. And then Brandon Marsh hit a garbage 3-run homer to make it 11-3. I was friggin' furious. That was I turned it off, I think, like a lot of people did. But I was getting text messages like my buddy Len's, like, oh, see what happens when you turn in positive John. If you were watching on Friday, I pledged that I was going to enjoy the run here, that I wasn't going to drive myself nuts about playoff baseball and did they peak too early and the hot team that enters the playoffs and blah, 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 blah. I was going to live in the moment and say, listen, it's the best team in baseball. I can't live like this. We had Scott Fransky on. I pledged it to Scott. I said, I'm going to be positive, John. And they lose 11-3 to the Mets. And I'm like, oh, Jesus, it's hard to argue. It's hard to argue with that. But then on Saturday, and I was mad. Tyler, I was streaming after the game on Friday night. And you saw it. I didn't go ballistic. I said that I'm not going to worry about it. This was a bad loss. I'm going to reserve my judgment until after Saturday or probably Sunday. And I did not go crazy. And then I'm at a birthday party on Saturday afternoon, so I wasn't watching the game in full, and I'm checking my phone. They go behind 4-0 in that game on Saturday, and Jesus, holy cow, it was bad. It was bad. And I'm thinking to myself, like, now, like, Jesus, like you got to be kidding me. Like, this is what we're doing. This is what we're doing in the series. And then the team fought back. They chipped away. Bryce Harper's hitting home runs. The Cal Stevenson game, we'll play that coming up here in a second. They come back and win the game. So for me, the weekend was already made. Even if they came out and they laid an egg on Sunday, I was going to be able to overlook it. They didn't get swept. They had a good comeback win on Saturday. The Mets are fighting for their playoff lives. But then a hell of a game yesterday. Great pitching matchup. They fall behind, and yet the team doesn't give up. They come back and tie it. They win it on a walk-off. Phils win 2 of 3. They put their foot on the throats of the Mets. Division's pretty much over. And just a great series win for the Phillies. And I was getting chills thinking about the run back in 2007 and 2008. Now, they're obviously in the lead in the NL East, so it's a little bit different from that standpoint. But just the fact that it was at Citizens Bank Park, it was a hot Sunday afternoon, and you had the Phillies and the Mets, the two best teams in the division, going back and forth on Saturday and Sunday. The environment was unbelievable. I'm just exactly what you were looking for from the Phillies this weekend. We'll bring in Tyler for a second, and we'll talk about that, and we'll go a little bit around the NFL. Eagles and Falcons, and you know, if you were looking for what you were writing about, if I'm a national NFL writer today, what am I writing about from yesterday's games are just when you think you know the NFL, you really don't know the NFL. You really, really don't. The Cowboys got pummeled by the Saints yesterday. The Vikings beat the 49ers. What other upsets did we have yesterday? A ton of other upsets to where I was feeling pretty confident coming into this game. So positive John on the Phillies may not be so positive John on the Eagles right now. The NFL, just when you think you know, you don't know. And that's how the Eagles lose this game tonight against the Falcons. And we'll talk to Brandon about it. But just when you think, well, we're the better team. Yeah, week-to-week NFL, the better team on a regular basis loses games. So that's how you lose the game tonight to the Falcons. You come in here, the offense isn't great. You can't get pressure on Kirk Cousins. Bing, bang, boom. And they take care of you. A.J. Brown's out for the game. That's problematic. They have a ton of talent on this team. They should be able to withstand not having A.J. Brown, although it is not a good thing to not have A.J. Brown, because does this mean that he's iffy next week as well? And now the next 2 weeks all of a sudden look a lot different. Oh, the Bucs and the Lions. And that was one of Tyler Zuli's locks of the weekend. And I liked the pick, and of course I didn't take it. I should get credit for that, Tyler, because I said on the air that was going to be one of my picks.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I did not think the Bucs were going to win that game. I just saw nearly 8 points, and I figured that it was going to be a little bit closer than what the line indicated. I didn't think they were going to win the game, but credit to them. They played a good game. They held the Lions to a couple field goals early in the game, which kind of set the tone as their offense, was kind of trying to get some footing. Yeah, but another one you didn't bring up, the Cardinals dropped
that
41 on the Rams yesterday. A lot of intriguing football in week 2 this past week.
I didn't see that coming at all. But again, that's the NFL. That's what makes it so great. So not so positive. John now looks and says, "Uh-oh, A.J. Brown out. Falcons game tonight. Oh man!" And then you look ahead to the next 2 weeks on the road at the Saints with Derek Carr playing like that. Now, you might say Derek Carr sucks, and I agree, but he's actually like a good NFL starting quarterback. He's never going to win anything in the playoffs, right? He'll win some regular season games. But just remember what he did as the Raiders quarterback a couple years ago when that defense sucked. So didn't he set NFL records, or it seemed like he must have? And then you have the Buccaneers on the road the week after that. Everybody's going to sleep on the Bucs. They beat the Eagles last year in the playoffs, and so far this season, so really good. That's a big win in Detroit yesterday. So not so positive. John now is like, oh my God, like maybe this game isn't so easy tonight. And then looking ahead the next 2 weeks, all of a sudden these games aren't easy.
So I will say this: I get the merit of the week-to-week league. I can't allow it to impact an individual, and I'm not even just talking about the Eagles. I can't allow it to impact an individual game where there are two teams where I have a pretty clear, definitive answer that one is better than the other. The Falcons' defense is good. They had Matt Judon in the offseason. They get Justin Simmons recently. It's good defense. But I'm not going to use this weekend's better teams losing to worse teams. The Eagles are good. I always say this. Every team every year loses a game they're not supposed to, and they win a game they're not supposed to. So unless you're the best team in the NFL and you're supposed to win every game, you're going to win a game that maybe you're on the road, maybe it's short week, maybe you're down some guys, whatever the case may be. That possibly could be the case in any week because for the most part, the Eagles are going to be a better team than their opposition.
Yeah, and losing games like that's okay.
So
It happens.
You know, could they lose to Atlanta tonight? Sure. Could they lose to New Orleans next weekend? Sure. You know, if they lost to Carolina, I think we'd all be really pissed off. You know, but you get my point, right? Like, you're going to lose a game that maybe you're slated to not supposed to, but I can't say, well, four teams that I expected to be the better team this weekend lost, and therefore the Eagles are also going to lose.
By the way, on the BetParks app right now, so I was peeking ahead to next week's lines. The Eagles are 2.5-point road favorites in New Orleans next week. So if you think that because the other thing is New Orleans comes off a huge victory like that against the Cowboys, do you come back next week flat? Or is it hard to come out flat against the Eagles because they're one of the best teams in football? It's interesting. All right, so BLG, Brandon Lee Gowton joins us in 15 minutes, but let's get updated on everything. Here's Tyler Zuli.
Yeah, you kind of talked about the weekend series that was started off on a really sour note on Friday. Aaron Nola stunk. The team stunk. They looked out of whack. The offense looked anemic. Aaron Nola gives up 6 runs in the 5th inning. They lose that one 11-3. Post-game show was not fun Friday night, John. I will tell you that.
Oh, you were on post-game
duties? It was not an enjoyable post-game show. So, as you mentioned, they lose that game in the fashion that they did. Could have set things up for a much worse weekend than what ended up happening.
So let me ask you, do you get extremely angry and negative? Because honestly, it's right up my alley to react after a bad loss.
Sure.
There's nothing better, and I didn't do that. I actually was like, I'm not even going to talk about it. I'm not going to talk about the Mets. But it's your job to come on post-game and give honest evaluation. And, you know, like, you're supposed to have some emotion on what happened in the game. So I would have been very negative after Friday night.
Yeah, it was it was not fun. So, like, the score was, you know, you lose 11-3. You lose as lopsided as you do. You can kind of flush the numbers away.
Right.
What you can't flush is how poorly Aaron Nola pitched. What you can't flush is how Jose Quintana made them look lifeless.
Dominated them, yeah.
You know, at times. So those things on a one game on Friday night, you know, not knowing what the next 48 hours were going to bring, made for a pretty annoying post-game show. Because it looked like it was just to me, it was Aaron Nola's second bad start in a row. The offense really just didn't get anything going. Quintana was great. And you go, oh, darn, now there's Colby Allard's pitching tomorrow.
Yes.
How does this parlay to the weekend, any kind of weekend success? So in the moment, Friday night was not a whole lot of fun.
Yeah, I flushed it. I didn't have to. I was just like, you know what? No, I'm not. I flushed it. So I'm glad I did.
Yeah. And then Saturday rolls around, and Colby Allard does not pitch particularly well. And I think a lot of people had an oh bleep, here we go moment. Where it was like this could get down to 5 very, very quickly.
Yeah.
But a little bit of life later on in Saturday afternoon. They scratch, they claw, they fight their way back to a game that was manageable again. And I got a text from a buddy who all he said in all capital letters was, "Now go win this bleeping game."
Yep.
And it transpired in a way that maybe nobody expected. And I think it's a little cliche to say where were you when this happened? But I think you can say, where were you when the Cal Stevenson game happened? And this was the first of 2 moments from Cal Stevenson, from our friends, of course, at NBC Sports Philadelphia, where the Cal Stevenson game was almost in full effect. Here's the first of those 2 moments.
On the way, he swings and drives it down to the right field corner, and that ball is off the wall, and the Phillies have the lead. Stevenson racing around second. He'll put the brakes on there. Throws his hands in the air, and Stevenson has given the Phils a 5-4 lead.
So Cal Stevenson drives in 2, gives the Phillies the lead, and kind of set the tone for what you had hoped would be the remainder of the game.
Yeah. And by the way, Scott Fransky doing TV because T-Mac was doing NFL stuff, and we'll hear the catch as well. It's a great call. But, yeah, championship teams, when they win, have moments like this from players like this. I didn't even know who Cal Stevenson was before a couple weeks ago. He's a guy in AAA, and, like, they bring him up, and you're like, oh, well, you're in trouble. Meanwhile, Buddy Kennedy's getting big hits. Weston Wilson's getting big hits. More on that coming up in a second. And this freaking guy. All right, so play the catch, because the hit's one thing.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you talk about big moment, big spot.
Yeah.
Possibly a game-saving catch.
Pitch swung on, hit high in the air, center field. It's deep. Cal Stevenson back at the track, at the wall. He leaps. Oh, and he God! It's the Cal Stevenson game. Are you kidding me?
It's the Cal Stevenson game. He said something else too. He had like something, he called him young man or something like that. God, and you feel good for him because he's had a couple cups of coffee as a major league player. So
Sure.
like he's got his hits. He hasn't had a moment like that. And man, that's a moment. If he never has any more success in Major League Baseball and he just ends up playing like he had that game right there. Amazing.
I think that there have been it was kind of the theme of the weekend was contributions from guys and kind of maybe the theme of maybe the last week was contributions from guys that you did not expect contributions from. You can extend it to you brought up Buddy Kennedy. You can extend it to Cody Clemens has done it, in bunches this year. It's contributions from guys that like when you go back and watch the season in review, you go, oh,
Yes.
that's right, he was on the team. And not only was he on the team, like now there's contributions behind it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, who did he replace? Yeah, he's had more Austin Hayes. I know Austin Hayes had a couple hits, but this guy's been more memorable than Austin Hayes has, and he replaced him on the roster when he went on the IL.
Yeah, so they win that game, end up winning that game, tie the series at 1. You've got the rubber match on Sunday. And yesterday provided a really awesome pitching duel. If you like pitching, this was the game for you. Christopher Sanchez was sharp. David Peterson was equally sharp. Really just like a playoff type pitching performance from both of these guys, just trading zeros. And by the way, for the Mets, Luis Angel Acuna made his major league debut this weekend. It was the guy that they got in exchange for Jacob deGrom from the Texas Rangers. So he made his major league debut for the Mets this weekend. But it was 7 strong innings from Christopher Sanchez, who exited the game actually trailing 1-0. He pitched into the 8th, didn't get an out in the 8th, but he exits the game 7 innings pitched, 1 earned run, 7 strikeouts. David Peterson got into the 8th. He got 2 outs in the 8th, in fact, before surrendering a run. It's 1-1 heading into the top of the 9th. The Phillies call to the bullpen. They call upon Jose Ruiz, who once again answered the call, as he kind of has for a bulk of the second half of the season. And then in the bottom of the 9th, the Phillies have an opportunity to not send this game to extras, to win it where it stands. And with a runner on second and 2 outs, and Edwin Diaz throwing 109 miles an hour, JT Realmuto comes up and he plays the hero for Sunday.
Delivers, and JT hits one again. Right center, who win the game? Castellanos will score, and the Phillies beat the Mets on a walk-off by JT Realmuto.
What a big hit. Down 0-2 in the count as well. And if you look at the replay, you look at the catcher. The catcher's standing up, more or less telling Diaz, you have to throw this so high that he has no chance of hitting it. Well, he didn't throw it high enough. He got it in the upper part of the zone, but it out over the plate. JT loves that ball where he can extend his arms and hit it into the gap in right center. That's exactly what he did. Bad pitch in that situation. Like, I get it. You're trying to change eye levels. You're maybe hoping that he chases, but more or less that's to change the eye level. Get it up so high that now he's thinking high, and then you throw it low. You're setting it up for the next pitch.
Yeah, you're looking to elevate the fastball, but when you elevate the fastball, you don't want to make it a waste pitch because you're not giving. I don't believe in giving pitches away for most spots, but you want to make it a spot where if he is going to swing at it, he looks like a fool. Because he's, because I'm a firm believer in, like, you don't hit 99 elevated that high. You just don't. You can't catch up to it.
Right.
It's just not within human nature to hit.
Right.
He left it out over the zone, and like you said, when JT's at his best, he is a gaps hitter to the opposite field. And you left a pitch in a zone that he could handle, and help secure a series victory, and probably basically put the nail in the coffin for the National League East title. I mean. It's still 5. The magic number is now 5 for the Phillies, but it could have been 7. Quite frankly, it very, very well could have still been 9. With the way that the weekend was transpiring.
Yep. Yeah, it's a huge series win. Shout out to Castellanos, who gets a hit, steals second to set that up. 8th inning where they tied it. They're behind 1-0, and Weston Wilson leads off with a double. Buddy Kennedy then gets the big hit to tie it up. They end up stranding. Weston or Buddy Kennedy on third. Marsh bunts him over, and then Schwarber.
Yeah, how about that, playing a little small ball?
Yep. Yeah, it's 2 nights. It was 2 nights in a row that Marsh was able to get him over with a bunt, so it was good. They brought the infield in. Schwarber grounded out. They couldn't get the run in, and then Trey popped out. But yeah, like this is one of these games when we felt like the Phillies were free falling that they lose. And they're getting back to winning games like this. They're finding ways to win games. Magic number's 5. They're 2 games up on the Dodgers. They're 9 games up in the NL East. And it's really 3 games up on the Dodgers. So I was looking at the tiebreakers. They own most of the tiebreakers here. Now, the Brewers, if you go up to Milwaukee, and that's the next series, if they sweep you, then they would own the tiebreaker. And then you're in trouble because they're only a couple games back from you. So, the next series is where you're looking at
the Phillies have given themselves a nice. They've got a 4-game lead over the Brewers right now. But again, much like we were talking about with the Mets, where leads can evaporate quickly when you're playing the team that's directly trailing you. A 4-game lead could become a 1-game lead very quickly. You could also extend it to 5 or 6. You know what I mean? Well, I guess 6 wouldn't work in that scenario, but you get my point, right? You have an opportunity to directly impact not just your results, but the team that is playing you and chasing you to kind of further distance yourself.
Yep, 13 games left, 10 on the road. See, 3 in Milwaukee, 4 at the Mets. I think Lindor, he hurt his back. I didn't see if he's going to be IL'd or whatever. Home against the Cubs and then at the Nats. Outside shot of getting 100 wins. You'd have to go 10-3, but like if this team for the next 2 series goes 5-2, right? Like that, to me, that would be the goal.
So you go. My thing is, you go 7-6 the rest of the way. That gets you to 97. The Dodgers would then have, especially if some of those wins come in a spot where it is against the Brewers. If you go 7-6, the Dodgers would have to go like 10-3,
right,
to catch you, because they have to leap you because, like you said, you hold the tiebreaker.
Tiebreaker. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Tyler. We'll get to some. We'll go around the league a little bit later because a ton happened yesterday in the NFL. Also, heard from Northeast Philly sent me. I don't even know how to describe them. He texted me inappropriate pictures over the weekend. We'll have to dive into that a little bit because I need some guidance on how to react to that, and that's coming up here in just a little bit. All right. So I mentioned this earlier about the BetParks app. Yep, I was on the BetParks app this morning. Birds 5.5-point favorites. Now, like, all right, you're 6.5-point favorites. It's like, yeah, you get bets now. 5.5 points. So it swung a full point from when we were here on Friday until today. Maybe A.J. Brown being out had something to do with that. Over-unders at 47. BetParks, the only sportsbook app that I would ever recommend. And they continue this with their new customers. BetParks Sportsbook app and online casino. It's a great offer. And I was thinking, I'm like, hey, listen, we got to update this copy. You can't be doing a 50-1 odds boost on your pick to win this year's Pro Football Championship. We're done week 2. We've got one more game. No. You can still get in right now. All new users who sign up and make a deposit, 50-1 super odds boost. BetParks.com has all the terms and conditions. So 50-1. That's with most of these teams having 2 games in. All right, like maybe you think Baltimore is a team that can still come back. I bet you get really good odds on that right now. You can double down on 4th down while you're watching Wager Football, while there's a break in the action. So we're talking about parlays. We're talking about over-unders. We're talking about everything. Do it tonight as well. Download the BetParks Sportsbook and online casino app. Get your 50-1 super odds boost on your pick for this year's Pro Football Champion. Limited time offer, new customers only. So if you haven't used BetParks, get in there right now. Must be 21 and in PA, New Jersey, Michigan, or Maryland. You play for fun. You love to win. You bet. BetParks. Gambling problem. Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, let's talk about TrueMark for a second. Anybody taking one of these trips to a Philly sports away game? So listen, you want to keep track of everything you're doing, right? And TrueMark Financial's mobile app allows account access anytime, anywhere. You can easily check your account balances, view your transactions, make transfers, pay bills, and all from the convenience of your mobile phone. I know I like the mobile app because I can constantly be monitoring what's going on. Because a lot of times, like, you'll see something like, that doesn't look right. What is that charge right there? Like, oh, no, it's fine. I asked my wife. Sometimes it's not, right? So you can be on top of everything. And how about a mobile wallet? You don't need to carry around your cards anymore. Add your cards in a mobile wallet, and it'll be amazing. TrueMark Financial's mortgage specialists can offer guidance on loan options and terms. They'll help you assess your finances and credit score to determine borrowing capacity. So, the housing market's getting back out there. Save for a down payment, budget for closing costs. TrueMark Financial is federally insured by the NCUA and is an equal opportunity lender. For more info, Visit truemark.com/PHLYITY. PHLYITY. That's truemark.com/PHLYITY. There you go. All right. Well, BLG is on the clock right now from Bleeding Green Nation. I didn't even see this until later on Saturday night. I saw that AJ Brown that ended up on the injured list. Let me see if he's there. He ended up on the injured list, and it was the hamstring. But it's one of these things where it's like, all right, he's listed as questionable hamstring. I wonder when that happened. I guess it's something that he tweaked in practice or whatever. And then by Saturday, he's out. So, I mean, they have enough talent. Devontae Smith, Jahan Johnson, Saquon Barkley. Like, I don't necessarily love the wide receiver depth on this team, but there's plenty of talent on this team to where you should be able to go into the night's game at home against the Falcons and win. But also, A.J. Brown's a huge weapon. And when you look at the game against the Packers, the wide receivers balance themselves very well. AJ's an explosive, strong hands, catches everything, boom, down the field, outruns everybody. And then Devontae's just catching everything, getting first downs. So, like, it's a pretty big loss. And it's one thing that I know that we've talked about here on the show, and I've heard a lot of people talk about wide receiver depth. And Johnny Wilson, their rookie, who maybe they thought was going to be able to step in at some point during the season and be a fourth receiver, well, he's got a hamstring injury or issue now, too. So now you have Britton Covey, and who's your other wide receiver? Blanking right now. That's why we're having Brandon Lee Gowton on the talk about it. Not loving the wide receiver depth. However, you can play Dallas Goedert. You can get him the ball a little bit more. And, so Paris Campbell's going to be called up from the practice squad. But still, you go from looking at the wide receiver position and being like, oh, yeah, man, one of the best wide receiver tandems in the league, to now A.J. Brown's out, kind of like that. And the Falcons do. They have an improved defense. And it was one of the when the Falcons kind of redid their team and they're like, all right, they needed help all over the place, but their defense has come along a little bit sooner than their offense was. But now you have Kirk Cousins, and now you're going to have to go, Bijan or bust. Well, now we're going to be able to see what Bijan looks like in real time and Tyler Algier. So I think it's as simple as this, that this game will be decided by the Eagles defense. If they can pressure Kirk Cousins, what happens when Kirk Cousins is pressured? Usually he makes bad decisions and he's throwing interceptions, game over. If you give Kirk Cousins, if you give him time to throw the ball, it's potentially a bad thing. Eagles secondary gave up some yards. I thought Kenyon Mitchell looked really good in his debut, but still, it's you got to pressure Cousins. And if you look at the biggest weakness on this team right now, for me, and I'll keep talking about it until they change my mind on it, is the pass rush from the defensive ends. I love BG. BG's in the final year of his career, and he's going to do very well, right? He's playing more snaps than the starters. Nolan Smith looks like a bust. I think Josh Sweat is fine. He's a good player, but he's not an elite pass rusher. So you removed the best pass rusher in your team in Hassan Reddick, and again, we can see reasons why Howie made that trade, and it was a good trade, but have you replaced him? And honestly, with Bryce Huff, I don't know how you can have a ton of confidence that he's going to. Maybe he comes out and he has the type of game that we're looking for. National TV, need to get pressure on Kirk Cousins. Like, you're kind of looking at Bryce Huff being like, all right, now's your time to kind of like make your debut. But that is how you lose it. That's how you lose the game, is you don't get pressure on Kirk Cousins. And at this point, I think it has to be a concern, because we only have the 1 week to go by, but not a ton of pressure. So does Vic Fangio look the blitz? Does he send extra guys? Does he use Zach Bond maybe in a different role as a blitzer, as an edge rusher, getting to the quarterback? I mean, one of the reasons why you bring in Vic Fangio is you want an experienced guy that can be like, all right, well, here's where we struggle with in week one. Here's the deficiencies and the weaknesses of the Falcons. Let's exploit it. Well, this is an Eagles defense game. This is. I don't know if the offense is going to look great tonight. This game is going to be won by the Eagles defense, and I'll look at Vic Fangio for all the talk that's been in the offseason about Fangio, and like this is the game where he really needs to shine. So we'll see. We will certainly see. It's going to be probably the biggest storyline. Now it's also cool when we have the national broadcast and you get Buck and Aikman and you're on the national stage and it's Monday Night Football. But it's also an 8:30, so 8:15, 8:30 start. So we're going to be in here tomorrow morning, Tyler Zulli. Probably pretty gassed just from watching the late game. Yeah.
I think today being Monday morning, it naturally happens. Tuesday, you're like, oh man, we're up again.
Old man problems, Tyler Zulli.
Yeah, I got old fast. My ripe old age of 30 caught up to me.
Yeah, you're an old 30. You're a very mature 30. You're not a young 30. Married, son on the way.
I guess so.
Not like me when I was 30. So BLG, we're having problems, Tyler Zulli. What's going on?
Yeah, I sent him a new link. We were having some connectivity issues, so send a new link, so we'll have him shortly.
All right. Well, so we'll wait on more Eagles talk to Brandon, but so let's look around the NFL a little bit here. So, and the Cowboys naturally were one of my picks yesterday, one of my locks of the week yesterday. So, I mean, and I'm happy to take the loss. I couldn't believe it happened early and it happened often. Cowboys losing to the Saints. It's a conference loss. They got demolished. That defense looked terrible. 6 straight Saint touchdown drives to start the game. 6 straight. It actually looked like the Eagles defense that year, where they were in the Raiders. They were in Las Vegas. They got crushed by the Raiders. But man, I was not expecting that. I still don't think the Saints are a good team. Maybe they're a playoff team, a wild card type team. Maybe they can win that division down there. But man, was that a blowout. And so, I tuned in, Tyler. I tuned into our post-game show down in our sister network, DLLS. And they were just kind of like, I can't believe that happened. Like they were almost in shock that it happened like that. But then again, they're Cowboys fans and Cowboys media, so I guess they have to expect almost anything happening down there.
So over the last couple of weeks, you have helped out the Cowboys, or you have hurt the Cowboys, and some of the picks you've had have lost on hooks and some bad luck. So here's what I'm gonna need you to do. Week 3, here are your locks for the week. You're gonna pick against the Browns. You're gonna pick against the Ravens, and you're going to pick against the Bengals. And that assures a 3-0 0-3 week for the rest of the NFC.
Yeah, the Cowboys have the Ravens. Ravens are 0-2. So how they lose the game to the Raiders? They had a 10-point lead. That was one of my games.
It's bad.
10-point lead. They came back.
If they start 0-3, they're going to be really. It's really tough to crawl out of that kind of hole. So. You're going to have at least one team between Dallas and the Ravens, at least 1-2 at the end of next week. You could have 2 1-2 teams between those two teams who we both expected to be, serious playoff contenders, or Baltimore could be 0-3.
0-3. That was your pick for the Super Bowl if it wasn't the Chiefs.
Looks
man,
bad to start.
I didn't see this come. I didn't see that coming, man. I really didn't. At home, that's ridiculous. Niners lost to the Vikings, Sam Darnold. For all the Sam Darnold fans out there, he still stinks, and he will not be a good quarterback at the end of the season. He will not. Kevin O'Connell's a hell of a coach, and that's it. Justin Jefferson's great. They have some good. That's a good team. And Darnold. Listen, Darnold's doing a good job. I'm not trying to take anything from him, but I guess I am. So he's saying he's not hearing. Can you send me the link? He's saying he's not hearing back or something. Brandon Lee Gowton.
Yes.
As we do this on the fly. So that was I was shocked. I guess you never should be shocked, but the Lions, they lost to the Bucs. They were at home. Dan Campbell it was just bad clock management. End of the first half. Could have cost them. So this is really, when you look across the NFC, Cowboys losing, the Niners losing, the Lions losing, really the top 3 of the top 4 teams in the NFL or in the NFC. So it's Eagles need to take advantage. Let me see. So I'm supposed to check Twitter. It's just difficult to talk.
No. We're good now. I think we should be okay.
Is he here?
I think we figured it out. Just give me 1 second. I'm going to check in with him just so he can make sure he can hear us and we can hear him, and we'll be good to go.
But the Lions losing, these are kind of unexpected losses, and Eagles have to take advantage. It's so important to have the number 1 seed, and if you're winning when these other teams are getting upset, that's really good. Bryce Young had 18 passes for 84 yards. It's a single game record, most completions in history for under 100 yards passing. He may not be on the team at the end of this year.
Yeah, he might stink.
He might. It's not might. He stinks.
His team also stinks, but he might stink.
All right, Brandon Lee Gowton, the Bleeding Green Nation, joins us right now as the Eagles and the Falcons. Monday Night Football, BLG. What is up, dude?
How's it going? Excited.
Yes. So, AJ, was this something that happened in practice? I was not expecting. I saw the designation of questionable, and I'm like, all right, that's weird, but I didn't even really phase me past that. Then Saturday, he's out for the game. What happened? What's the injury? Where does it stand?
Yeah, those are always the most annoying injuries, I would say, when you're just going into the week thinking, okay, everything looks good here. Really nothing to be maybe super concerned about. That Falcons team, the way they looked in week 1, and all of a sudden pops up on the injury report. Apparently he was having hamstring tightness, and then all of a sudden listed as limited on Friday. Doesn't practice at all on Saturday, even though Nick Sirianni kind of suggested that he might try to get some work in. And then he apparently tried to give it a go in Sunday's walkthrough, and apparently wasn't good enough, and now he's just out. And that's not great.
No, it's not great because Johnny Wilson, who I don't know if you could have counted on him to come in and take some of the workload. He's a rookie. He's questionable. So he has a hamstring injury. So now you have Devontae, Jahan Dotson, Britton Covey, and then I guess they're bringing up Paris Campbell. One of the things I remember talking about, I'm sure you did as well, BLG, is the depth at wide receiver. And you're fine if everybody stays healthy. But if there's an injury, you're really testing your depth. And this is kind of the first test for the Eagles wide receiver. How do you feel about the receivers coming into tonight's game?
Yeah, I mean, they only have 3 on the 53-man roster. Like you said, Johnny Wilson doesn't even play. So not amazing. And this is exactly why you make the Jahan Dotson trade. And I'm really curious to see how that goes, because he only got here. I think he's had 8 practices now or so since he joined the team. And I think that's crucial when it comes to Jalen Hurts having trust in receivers to even being willing to target them. We only saw Dotson get that 1 target where it was almost the pick 6 on that check down, weird forced play from Jalen Hurts in week 1. So Dotson has talent, but I'm totally wondering if the trust is there. Obviously, we've seen Devontae absolutely go off, and the only other time that A.J. Brown has missed a game for the Eagles since they got him, that was the Bucs playoff game. Devontae was stellar in that game. I expect him to be pretty good again as the number 1 guy. But behind him, you have a guy in Dotson who I'm not sure if Hurts is comfortable with. Britton Covey, who, I think he kind of maxes out as a possession receiver at most. And then I guess they're going to bump up Paris Campbell, a guy who, clearly wasn't compelling enough to be on the roster. So it should be enough to get by when you still have also Saquon Barkley and Dallas Goedert here, and you're playing a Falcons team that only got in the end zone once last week. But it doesn't make you feel amazing.
Makes you thin on the outside with the receivers. Covey wants to work in the slot. I think Paris Campbell really is best in the slot. They like to use Dallas Goedert in the slot. So Johnny Wilson would at least be valuable. At least you could put him on the outside a little bit. Devontae, they like to put Devontae in the slot too. So and this is where we talked a lot about Kellen Moore coming in the offseason. This is one of these games where it's all right, man, you still have plenty of weapons on offense. Let's make this work. Especially after last week, you would think that if you're the defensive coordinator of the Falcons, you're saying all right, we need to eliminate 2 players now, except for 3. Having the big 3 makes it so difficult. This really takes the pressure off of Atlanta. Really does.
It does. Yeah. I mean, I think it's just going to be interesting to see if they have a AJ Terrell or if they shadow Devontae and just try to be make someone else beat us. And I think that's exactly what they're going to try to do. I think they're going to try to make Jahan Dotson have an amazing game. And again, he has talent. Still know that Hurts feels totally on the same page with him. and comfortable with him. The way that when anything is going wrong, typically with the offense, A.J. Brown is just there to be reliable, to make a huge play, to get that key first down. Like Jalen Hurts doesn't have to think twice. A.J. Brown's always going to be there. So to not have that big safety blanket really is concerning. And I think it's going to be a game where they're going to have to ride Saquon hard once again, just like they did in week 1. And why go away from that when it's working so well? Obviously, over the course of the 17-game season, you probably can't do that literally every single game. But early on in the year, and he's looking this good, I would just give him the ball 25 times again.
I was surprised he got 24 carries in the opener. Total touches around that, or maybe 20 total touches. I was just surprised they used them as much as they did. And I agree with you. You got to do it again. You got to do it again. This team's at its best when it can run the football with running backs, not just with Jalen Hurts. So I still feel good about the offense. I'm worried about the defense. And I think it's as simple as this, Brandon, that if you pressure Kirk Cousins tonight, you're going to win the game. If you can't get pressure on Kirk Cousins consistently, you could be in trouble. And I worry about the defensive ends, especially after what we've seen with the production from the defensive ends. The interior of the line, I'm not going to bitch about today. What's Bryce Huff? So like this game, in my opinion, is going to be a Vic Fangio Eagles defense game. If you give Kirk Cousins time and you don't pressure him, they'll lose the game tonight, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, Cousins did not look like he could even play like functional last week.
No, he's terrible.
Nope. In terms of formations usage that they just, were not doing at any point in Kirk Cousins' career before. And that would point to the fact that it seems like Cousins, they're saying he's healthy enough to play, but apparently he doesn't seem to trust his own kind of body yet. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing out there. So, yeah, I mean, if they get torched by, again, this offense that looked so inept at home last week, I mean, that's really troubling. And the pass rush, is key. Like, I don't think we really learned a lot about the Eagles pass rush in week 1. I'm not going to say that everything is fine and no one has to panic at all. I'm just saying that on that field, I don't think it's truly the best judge. The Packers weren't rushing the passer great either, right, on their end. So I'm kind of willing to give them a bit of a mulligan on that one. But this is where we find out for real. Like, okay, can Bryce Huff, who played the 4th most snaps of any Eagles edge rusher last week, actually do anything here? I mean, he better. He was their top free agent signing. They signed him before Saquon. They gave him like the 17th highest valuable edge contract in the NFL, like almost top 15 edge money. He can't be playing that few snaps and having no impact basically on the game. This pass rush, like if they're going to be for real, like tonight is the night where they show that they are.
Howie bet big on Huff. He did. Now, it's not a long-term contract. Really, it could be a 2-year contract, and if he sucks, they can cut him. But still, you need to replace Hassan Reddick's production. Hassan Reddick was one of the best edge rushers in the NFL with 2 years in Philadelphia. Got to replace it. This team is always better, and this is obviously the story around the NFL, when they're getting pressure on the quarterback. Now, if I'm the Falcons tonight on offense, I use Bijan Robinson and Algier, and I run at the ends. I don't need Kirk Cousins throwing the ball. If Kirk Cousins throws the ball 40 times, they lose because they're going to be playing from behind. And Falcons defense is pretty good, but Bijan or bust, you may remember. Some people were on board with drafting Bijan Robinson, Brandon Lee Gowton. It didn't happen. The Falcons overdrafted him. He hasn't been great so far. It wasn't great in week 1, but I give a heavy dose of Bijan in the running game, and I run right at the ends this week or tonight. Yeah.
If I'm the Falcons, I think there's 2 main things I'm trying to do on offense. That's number 1 is run the ball, specifically with Bijan over and over and over again, and try to have him carry the offense, get him involved in the passing game. He can obviously do that as well. That's obvious. The other thing is if they are passing, really interested to see what the Eagles do with their nickel cornerback situation, given that we saw Avonte Maddox get picked on last week. Now Isaiah Rodgers is back healthy, so are they going to do the configuration where they put Quinyon Mitchell inside? Is Cooper DeJean going to be more involved? We don't know yet, but if it's Maddox still out there, if they don't change it up, I mean, you have Kyle Pitts, you're the Falcons. You could look to work. You have Drake London, who can put inside there as well. If you're going to be looking for a mismatch, it would be that size mismatch in there. So I'm looking to definitely, if I'm the Falcons, run the ball a ton and then try to exploit Avonte Maddox with just the size mismatch, if that's something the Eagles are going to present to you.
Brandon Lee Gowton, Bleeding Green Nation, your reaction after week 1 with Jalen Hurts' performance. I've heard a lot of people say, and you look at the tape, and A.J. Brown slipped. I still don't like. He was wide open, but still, these D-backs closed in quickly on those balls, and he didn't exactly throw a rocket to him. I thought it was a bad decision because the play before almost was a pick six. I don't like the bad decision making in week one. I'm not going to harp on it, but your reaction to how Jalen Hurts played, and is it on your radar at all? Like, man, what the hell was that? To where now you're a little like the worry meter on Hurts for this season, has it changed for you?
I think dating back to week 1 of last season, he has like 23 giveaways in 19 games. I mean, that's just way too many. I think he had like 9 in the 18 games from before that in 2022. Like that number just has to go down. I think some of it's been bad luck over this big sample, but I mean, not all of it, and certainly not last week. And that second interception that you brought up, like that really bothered me, just from the standpoint of he almost throws a pick six on the play before. You would think he's especially like, hey, don't do that again. Don't make another mistake right now. And yeah, I know AJ slipped, but and also Jair Alexander like peeled off he peeled off his guy that he was covering there. But guess who his guy was? It was Jahan Dotson, who Jalen Hurts had only thrown to the one time in the whole game. Was Alexander really worried that he was going to throw it to Dotson again when he wasn't even utilizing him at all? Like, so, and it just wasn't the time to make a play. It wasn't the time to force it. It wasn't like fourth down, trailing, gotta have it.
No.
That's what was concerned. That's what is concerning to me. Like the lack of game situation awareness there, where, hey, if the worst case scenario here is I just throw it incomplete and we kick a field goal and we go up 8 points, that's not too bad. That's not terrible. The one thing you can't do is turn the ball over there. So Jalen has seemingly done a good job of like beating up on himself a little bit, at least, in the media, like taking accountability for that.
Sure.
So I'm willing, and I saw him in training camp look great and not make those dumb decisions really at all. So I'm willing to say that I think that could be a blip on the radar, and he can take a step in the right direction. And I think he's going to do that tonight by not turning the ball over. But if it's more of the same, then I'm just, it's kind of like, okay, maybe this is just who he is.
We'll see. Yeah, his training camp red jersey in the Hall of Fame for the consecutive interception-less streak this past training camp. So yeah, it was. Where were you when that streak ended? All right, Brandon Gowton, prediction tonight. What do you got?
The AJ thing takes a little wind out of the sails, but I still think that this Eagles team is pretty good. They're coming off of more rest. Obviously, they had to travel back, but they played on the Friday where the Falcons played last weekend. It's Nick Foles night at the Link. Tiring. Crowd's going to be juiced. It's the true home opener. I think all the X factors are kind of working in the Eagles' favor here. I watched that Falcons Steelers game last week. Was just not impressed with that Atlanta team really much at all. I know their defense played well, but that Steelers offense literally didn't even try to throw a pass over the middle of the field. And they're also using Najee Harris 20 times, where Jaylen Warren gets 2 carries, and Jaylen Warren is clearly the better running back of those 2 players. So I think the Eagles are going to have a better game plan and approach. And ultimately, I'm going to take the Eagles to win here. I'm going to go 27-17.
Ooh, a cover. All right. Brandon Gowton, check him out. Bleeding Green Nation on top of everything, including Jalen Hurts getting engaged. The news came out over the weekend, so congrats to Jalen for that. But all right, dude. We'll talk to you soon, all right?
See ya.
All right, BLG. There he is. Brandon Gowton. All right, we gotta get to some of our great sponsors here right now. So, listen. You know me. I'm incompetent. I'm embarrassed how bad I am at fixing things. So if there's a leaky pipe, I got nothing for you. There's a problem with the air conditioner. No, I can do manual labor. I know how to change the air conditioning filter, right? I can use a plunger or something like that. But outside of that, forget about it. And that's why I need Ace Hardware Home Services, because they're doing everything: plumbing, the heating and cooling. So listen, the trusted pros at Ace, and I go there all the time, and you get everything that you need. But listen, if you have something that's going on and you need it fixed, go to acehardwarehomeservices.com. A wide range of residential maintenance, installation, and home repair services, including plumbing, heating, cooling, and electrical. Free estimates on equipment installation and replacement with trusted advisors and options that are best suited for your home and your budget. Emergency services. It's Sunday morning. The toilet just overflowed. It won't flush. Boom. AceHardwareHomeservices.com. Service you can trust, satisfaction guaranteed. They make it right no matter what. So again, Ace Hardware Home Services.com. All right, check this out. Rugged Road, dedicated to creating innovative and durable outdoor gear for adventurers who demand the best. Their products are designed with the highest quality materials and craftsmanship, ensuring they perform in the toughest conditions, whether you're land, water. Rugged Road gear is built to accompany you on every adventure. Floatability. So you got a cooler. They float. I'm telling you, spend a little bit extra money on a cooler and they last forever. Boom. Unlike any other heavy-duty cooler, Rugged Road coolers are incredibly light, making them easy to transport on any trip without compromising on their performance. Crafted to handle the toughest environments, they're built to last, ensuring you can keep up with any adventure. Their coolers are guaranteed to keep the contents cool for up to 7 days. 7 days. You kidding me? Perfect for a variety of outdoor activities, fishing, tubing, camping, tailgating. Coolers are designed to meet the needs of every outdoor or sports enthusiast. So you're going down to the link for the game, Rugged Road. Check it out. Gear up for your next adventure. Reliable, durable, built to be used. Rugged Road is your ultimate outdoor companion. If you head to ruggedroadoutdoors.com, check it out. You'd like to save money? 10% off. PHLY is your code. ruggedroadoutdoors.com. Code PHLY will save you 10% off. Well, there you go. All right. Well, the technical difficulties that we had with Brandon Lee Gowton will cost us Herb sending. I don't even want to waste it today, but Herb, if you know Herb from listening to my WIP show, Herb was sending me a bunch of pictures on Friday in the Friday afternoon, and I'm like, is this dude making is he shooting a shot with me? What is going on?
So I will say this. I know we'll probably talk more about it tomorrow, I guess. None of them are, there's no explosivity to them, right? But some of them you go, what?
I wasn't sure if the next one was going to be.
What is this? Like, what is happening here?
I shouldn't have even brought. I put it in the tweet and everything, and I teased it. So I feel like that I had to at least mention. All right, we'll try to get to it later this week. Herb was in Brazil. I think he's returning home today. So we'll see if we can catch up with him later on in the week. We got to give predictions on the game. So yesterday you were 2-1 in your 3 games.
Yes. So Tampa Bay plus 7.5 covered. They won the game outright. And I took the Chargers. I believe they were minus 5.5 when we picked. I think the line got down to 4.5 at one point. They won by 20-something, I think. And then the game that I lost, I took Jacksonville minus 3, and Cleveland beat them. So they didn't even win the game, let alone cover. But a 2-1 day for 2-1 weekend for me.
Poor Doug having to have Trevor Lawrence down there. Trevor Lawrence is as average of a quarterback as far as a winner as I've ever seen. At least when Andrew Luck came along, he didn't end up winning a Super Bowl, but he got beat up so early. Like he was a difference maker. Andrew Luck was a great player who fizzled out and ended up quitting. Trevor Lawrence just isn't a good player.
Andrew Luck to me is definitively the best NFL-ready quarterback, like coming out of college
ever.
I don't know where I go, but like in the last 10 years for sure. Like the guys, especially the guys that went number 1 overall, like Trevor Lawrence was supposed to be like transcendent, and he's been good.
He was the best. He was the best prospect since Andrew Luck,
right.
Trevor Lawrence. But when I watched him in college, and Clemson fans used to, when I did a national radio show, Clemson fans used to like kill me with emails on this. I was never impressed with him as a winner. And I know it's like one of these cliches, like what does that mean as a quarterback? It means that in a big game, I feel like that if there's a drive and he needs to lead his team down for a drive, he ain't doing it in big spots. And he's proven that so far as an NFL quarterback. They stink. He stinks.
They're skill position players. They're talented. They have a lot of weapons. I know Evan Ingram missed the game yesterday, but you've got a decent receiving core. You got a good young running back. Brian Thomas looks to be the real deal at the wide receiver position. They're just they can't get out. They can't get out of their own way right now. I know it's only 2 weeks, but like they have not looked impressive in either game.
And really, he's an average quarterback. He's probably like a top 15 quarterback that. Just when you're the number 1 overall pick, when you come into the league with
there's expectations.
Yeah, and he hasn't been Bryce Young.
Well,
like Bryce Young. But anyway, and then so I lost my one game that I hit was the Jets beating the Titans. But anyway, give me your prediction for tonight, Tyler Zulli.
Yeah, I think the AJ Brown being inactive is troublesome. I won't make any pretend that it's not. He's probably, to me, he might be your best player on your roster. He might be your best player. And so when you're out your best player, a little bit
That's
of
a loss.
worry creeps in. I will say this. I do believe that the Eagles win this game tonight. Well, that was Herb's picture. I got one of Herb's pictures up here. I'm like, wait, where am I? I'm like, okay, now that makes more sense. That preview of one of the Herb's pictures we can show you tomorrow. That was him at breakfast or lunch or whatever it was. We'll talk more about it tomorrow. I do believe they win this game. One of two things happens. Either they go into this game and we are biting our fingernails down to the studs until the very end, or they come out and absolutely obliterate the Falcons because of everything that you and BLG talked about. Like, the Falcons' offense isn't very good. They've got skill position players. I think I've always been a big Kyle Pitts fan. Bijan Robinson is nasty. Drake London can pose a matchup problem. As in totality, I don't think they're ready to compete at a high octane level because of the being hamstrung by your quarterback. He's coming back from injury. He's okay. He's puts up good numbers, but he's nothing world beating by any means. So I think one of two things happens. This is a close 3-point win, or they win by 17. And I think I'm leaning more towards the close win. The line's down to 4.5 now, or 5.5.
It was 5.5 this morning.
5.5. I think Atlanta covers.
Yeah, I'm with you.
But I think I think the Eagles win. I will take the Eagles. I think it's just a weird offensive game. Like I said, they're either going to win 31-14 or they win 23-20.
Mine's 24-23 Eagles. And I agree with you. If they get to Cousins and they pressure him, it'll be a blowout.
Yes.
He'll throw interceptions, and he's on the road, prime time. That's not exactly good Kirk Cousins, right?
Sure.
But I think this is a lot tighter game than if we were to ask every Eagle fan today, what do you think the game's gonna? I would say 90% say that they win by double digits.
Correct. I would think
this
so
is
too.
An easy win, and when it's like that, it never ends up working out. It's a tight game.
Well, like I said at the beginning of the show, I'm not for my own, just me personal, processes of going through this game. I'm not going to take a ton of stock into that, but there is merit to it.
Yeah.
I think this is just one of those weird games. I don't know why. Primetime Kirk Cousins stinks. We know primetime Kirk Cousins stinks. So that's where the 31-10, 31-14 type of thing comes into play. Yeah. I don't know. I just got this weird. It's a gut check thing. That's really what it comes down to. It just got this weird gut check feeling that this is a much closer game than it should be. I'm taking the Eagles to win, but I don't love tonight's game in terms of covering the spread.
Yeah, I think it's a tight game. I'll do 24-23. So on my official pick, plus 5.5 on the Falcons. Is Kirk Cousins? Is he the best? Is he a really good bad quarterback, or is he a really bad good quarterback?
I think he's a really good bad quarterback. I think he is one of the better bad quarterbacks in the league.
Is Eli Manning a really good bad quarterback?
No, I think Eli Manning's a really bad good quarterback.
I agree. They're different because Eli Manning has 2 Super Bowl MVPs.
Eli Manning also had the capacity to put a team on his back if necessary and make game-winning drives.
He's a 500 quarterback with 2 Super Bowl MVPs.
He threw some of the stupidest passes I've ever seen, but he also at times willed drives to win games for the Giants. Kirk Cousins doesn't do that.
No, he doesn't.
Kirk Cousins protects the football. He doesn't make stupid mistakes. But when it comes down to it, if you were to say, hey, Kirk, go win me a game, I wouldn't feel good about it.
No, look at his numbers. You think you're dealing with a Hall of Famer. And then actually watch the game.
Sure.
And it's he's not all that good.
I think about, to me, Phillip Rivers is a really bad, good quarterback.
I agree.
Who his numbers are gaudy.
He's not a bad quarterback. Kirk Cousins is not a good quarterback.
Sorry, let me rephrase that. So I think the times Phillip Rivers does, Eli Manning, Phillip Rivers, those type of guys, they would have days where it was dear Lord, this is an amazing quarterback performance.
Yeah.
And then, gunslinger type mentality takes hold, and then they make a poor decision after poor decision after poor decision. Kirk Cousins I don't think has the physical skill set and capacity to be a good quarterback. I think he's he's learned to be a good game manager.
Diehards, shout out to you out there. We love you. Appreciate you. Shout out to the diehards. Yeah, we'll see tonight. I think it's going to be a grinded out win for for the Eagles. So we got the Birds tonight. Make sure you're tuning in for the post-game, the PHLY Eagles pregame and post-game show tonight. Phillies are off. Are you on Phillies duty at all today there, Tyler?
Yeah, we'll be on at 11. So we'll be on in about 2 hours.
That'll be a fun recap of the Mets series.
It'll be a much, like we talked about at the beginning of the show, it'll be a much more fun show today than it we thought it was going to be on Friday for sure.
Yeah. Phil's off Milwaukee Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then in New York for a 4-game weekend series. Magic number is at 5, and then we'll be back tomorrow for the show. Anthony's coming up, so when you click off of here, go check over what the Ant-Man has to say as the Eagles and the Falcons coming up, everybody. Remember, subscribe. If you're not already subscribed on YouTube, PHLY Sports, and then just search. Go to my Instagram or my Twitter. It's at John Marks Media, and it has the links to where you can listen to the podcast. Once it's posted after 9 o'clock, you can view on YouTube. DM me. DMs are always open. And email me it's at johnmarksmedia@gmail.com. Say hello, but we're going to say goodbye. Go Birds. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
We all silly like the mayor.